Hello, good evening. This is Paul Cherry Trains here with Bedstead Junction. Now tonight possibly might not include a running session, but we can have a quick look at some different problems people have raised about the locomotives on my channel, okay, in the comments section. And if anybody's got any questions, I mean, I don't know everything, but I might know the answer for you. I've been sort of on and off doing locomotives since about 1990, early 1990s. And I've taken many parts, and I might have the answer for you. But here I might potentially have it. Now, the first problem I've got was presented to me. I think it was Paul Higgins. I've already covered this in a previous video where I thought he was talking about a brake van, but I think he may have been talking about a Dapol brake coach. Now, if it's a brake coach, I do apologise, but I'm going to show you what applies to the coach. And again, I'm going to show you a problem I had, which definitely had a big impact on the running of the coach. Now, coaches are a little bit more difficult because you've got obviously the bogie at either end, okay? And really, if you've got a wobble, experience has taught me, especially with locomotives, that normally you've got a wobbly wheel, okay? A misshapen wheel, or a wheel that's out of true, so it's sort of like doing this, you know, and that's causing the whole thing to do this, you know. It can happen, okay, and with possibly with the smaller wheels of a carriage, that could actually amplify itself as the actual carriage is going down the track. Now I'm going to show you a Dapol coach here. It doesn't have to be a brake coach, but this is a Dapol coach. And these Dapol, the older Dapol coaches, I think some of them are possibly based on the Airfix models. And again, I'll talk about a potential problem which you may be getting, which might be down to the couplings. But we'll cover the first problem here. Now, we've got the coach we're looking at, okay. Let's see if we can get that in focus there for us. Okay. Now we got the bogie here, okay, and the similar one at the other end. What you need to do is to spin the wheels, okay. Go back, folks. Spin the wheels. Look at them carefully, and check there's no wobbling in those wheels. Okay. Check that the actual wheels are sat correctly in the axles are sat correctly in the bogie as well. Because if one of them is not sat in the bogie correctly, that will cause the wheel probably not to rotate properly, and also it might be trying to do this, okay, as it's teetering on two wheels. Now, one of the problems, and also a misshapen wheel, anything that's misshapen in those wheels, because they're relatively small wheels, that could be amplifying itself greatly in the running of the coach. So you need to check carefully that those wheels are not misshapen, and just check that the bogies, focus back up again. Check the bogies are moving freely, okay. And also one of the problems you might get is these couplings. Now these are Airfix type couplings, and I'm not worried about these, but if I was connected up to like the one that I've got connected up to the locomotive, I've replaced this with a larger D type coupling. These are the Airfix type couplings, and they're a little bit shorter. So they're okay if you're connecting coach to coach, but if you're going loco, if you're trying to connect it to a D-type coupling, you could have problems, okay? There we go. There's the coupling there now, you can see that clearly. And they just pull off. My grubby finger's going to get in the way, but you see how easy they pull out. Okay, they just snap out. So now the coupling's out of there now. And you can get Dapol type couplings, okay. Well, I don't know if I can focus that because I'm going to try and focus on my face rather than this. Oh, there you go, it's focused now, okay. That's the older Dapol type coupling. You can replace these with a larger D type coupling, and they just simply snap back in. There's a slot in, you can see a slot in the bogie, then you just push back in. Okay, so you snap back in like that, easy peasy. So you might want to swap the couplings out. I did it on quite a few of my coaches. All of my Airfix were similar couplings, they were derailing on corners, and I found it was better to swap out the smaller couplings, the Airfix type couplings, for larger D-type couplings, Dapol type D couplings, and you can get those quite easily off the internet, okay? And you can see, just to recap what they're like, again, you can get back in focus again. You can see, I'll get out in focus there again. Yeah, certainly enough to be able to see that there. That's how they snap into the bogey. Okay, that's where they fit into the bogey. Swap the couplings out. But the problem I had with one of these coaches was a little bit more dramatic, okay? Now if you can imagine, a lot of us have built Airfix models in the past, we've had to pull the parts off of like a bar or something, haven't we? Like a plastic bar, okay? And they've got a little bit of residue left behind sticking out of the part, okay? Part of the connection between the bar and the part. Now this one of the wheels on my coach, and to illustrate, so I'm going to do something quite crude. But that's what my wheel looked like. Okay, it had this stuck to the wheel rim. Looks like they had a load of these maybe stuck onto a bar. They put them off the bar, and that was left behind, and they never removed it. I had to cut that off with a craft knife, okay, and that was actually on one of my wheels. So you can imagine that on the wheel, how much chaos that would cause as it's trying to run. Boom, 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 up and down. Well, it wasn't. It was even worse than that. It was actually stopping the wheel from revolving, and it was being dragged along the track. And that I would say, if you've got a Dapol coach of an older vintage, you might have one like mine, make sure that those wheels are not misshapen. And also, if you've got running problems, you might be able to swap your couplings out, and that might help as well. You'd be surprised, that will help you out on chord when it's going over corners and points. Okay, so I hope that helps with that. And now we're going to just stop the camera, and then we're going to move on to our second problem, and I'll be right back with you in just a few moments. Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned that before, but that was Paul Higgins, I believe, who had the problems with the wobbly brake coach, okay, the Dapol one. Well, I hope that helps. Now, I think it's Jamie DRFC Vlogs. He's got a problem getting his Hornby County class 460. He's got a problem with the drawbar, between the drawbar and the tender. Now, I've got a special experience of this because when I bought my first county class locomotive, and I'll show it to you now which one it was. It was our 2211 BR460 county class locomotive, County of Monmouth. You see that there? Okay, this is the older type county, okay? This one had been kept in an exhibition case, and the drawbar had been removed. So the drawbar needed putting back in again. Now I think it might be the same with the castles of the similar vintage. And also, this holds true for the more modern railroad county class locomotive. And then what we'll be looking at tonight is our 2937 GWR County of Cornwall, number 1006, okay? But if you've got either type of these, this is the older Hornby one, or the more modern county class. Now these locomotives are completely different mechanically, but the coupling mechanism between the drawbar mechanism between the locomotive and the tender is identical. Now we'll get onto this now, and we'll just show you how they go together. First of all, it may be that the problem may be getting the working out how the locomotive and the tender goes together. Now normally what you get a screw. This is the bottom of the tender. You get a screw there, okay? Well, there's no screw, or maybe it hooks onto a peg. Well, there's no peg. And I apologise to any of you who have actually experienced on these particular models. But if you don't know, you don't know, do you? And once it actually successfully got the drawbar connected up to the locomotive, which is another heap of fun altogether. That was something else again. But you'll see here on this, you've got, on the tender, got the two buffers there with the slot in between. And that's where you actually put the drawbar, okay? And we just have a look at the drawbar, and they're identical on these different types of county class locomotives. Okay, I think we're focused on that drawbar there. You see it's like got like a kind of a hook. It's a similar way to the way that the coupling went on. And that pushes into that slot. And one thing you always got to make sure, this drawbar comes in two parts. Always make sure the copper part there is down at the bottom, okay? That's at the bottom of the locomotive there, facing down, okay? You can see, maybe see, if I can get that going from there. See that coupling from the side? And that goes into the slot. Now it's best that I'm gonna get the camera to go down if I can. And we'll see if we can get this to have a look at the table. There we go. So we're going to focus on. I'll be doing this a little bit sort of blind in a way. Well, let's see. We got where the coach was. Let's move the coach out of the way. A few other items there. Now we've got my tender here, and we've got that slot in the tender. Okay. You might not be able to see this very clearly because I do this for the top, but you literally push that drawbar into the slot in the bottom, okay, and you push them together and you hear them click, and that's how the locomotive and the tender is connected together. Okay, now my viewer actually, Jamie actually mentioned though, he was talking about I do have to undo a screw. Well, now this may be, now if somebody actually removed the drawbar from the locomotive, or you may have done this, if anybody's ever removed the body, okay, they might have, somebody may have had trouble getting the drawbar to go back in, and it can be a very, very fiddly process, okay. I want to take the two apart. I don't know if you can see this now, my grubby paws are getting in the way, probably. We just pull them apart like this, okay? Okay. Now, the only thing that you need to bear in mind about this, if you've got one of the older Hornby ones, this particular model here, the older one, this model you can spot it by the box up, but those have got a full plate, a hinge full plate between the tender and the locomotive. You've got to make sure that the hinge full plate is lifted up enough so it don't collide with the tender when you're putting the two together, okay? And that's a feature of the older type models. And probably we'll have a look at the instructions here. We're looking around to one side now. Body removal, okay? You can see the body removal instructions here. You can see there the drawbar comes out and it's in two, you can clearly see that, it's in two separate halves. And there's a screw which holds it together. Now, when you actually remove the body, you'll find that there's a spring. In the locomotive under here, where we've got to try and get the drawbar to go in, there's a spring fits underneath. You have to be able to compress that spring enough to be able to slide the screw in enough, and that phone is giving me notifications. I'm going to switch this off, so I should have put on to do not disturb. Quite distracting, those notifications. let's have a look. Right, do not disturb is on now, so that's okay, won't be disturbed anymore. Okay, so where were we? So, you've got a kind of a spring you will need to undo on here. And it goes into that slot there. But you do, yes, you do have to be able to undo the screw underneath, even if you see the screw there. Okay, the screw does come out there, but when you're trying to reassemble it, you've got like a kind of a pillar that the spring fits on, and you have to try and get that. You have to, when you're putting the body back on, you have to kind of compress that spring down enough with a screwdriver in order to get the screw to allow the drawbar to go in, and then the screw goes in afterwards. And in fact, they put all this in the instructions here. See the picture there? That's our figure 7. Place the contact switch. This is great, this is. Good instructions. Place the contact spring in position on the chassis assembly and carefully lower the body onto the chassis in figure 7. Okay, so yeah, it's showing in figure 7. It's showing the spring there. Okay, and it's on a kind of a pillar on the chassis. That's it. Okay. And carefully lower the body onto the chassis. Then refit bogie spring with screw. Well, I think they're talking about the front bogie there now. Okay, so the front bogie is on there and the screw, and the spring goes underneath there, and that's fine. You're putting the body back on. Lift the cords of the drawbar contact spring to allow both drawbars to be slid into position underneath it through the lower slot, as is shown in figure 8. Okay. Hold that there for a bit longer so you can see it a bit better. Pause if you want to see that bit better. Remember that the metal drawbar must be underneath when the tender is right way up, then refit the assembly screw and bogie. Okay, so it's compressing that spring enough just to be able to get the drawbar back in again. And that is quite good fun, that is. I'll talk about some of my tools which I use here. I've got a set of, these are jeweler screwdrivers, but these are all flat bladed, okay? But they do come in handy in situations like that where you're trying to compress the spring. And if you have a look at how it all goes together, it's quite self-explanatory. Alright. So I hope that helps. Oh, we're going to talk about the tools as well. Now I've got a kind of my tools I keep in an old ice cream container, okay? For those of you who don't know, I keep things and a bit of a jumble. But I've got my useful thing. This a magnetic screwdriver, and it comes with a variety of screw heads, and that has helped me greatly when I'm fixing up my locomotives. Okay, greatly helps me greatly. I've got this series of flat bladed screwdrivers there. An oiler, I always use an oiler. But that's some of the tools I use when I actually repairing locomotives. That's the most common screwdrivers I use. I keep a lot of other bits in there. When a lot of us keep all our stuff in old biscuit tins. I got this as an old, I think this is a food container, I think. Now each of these, you should have an instruction sheet with your locomotive. I might tell you about the fitting the drawbar. That's the Railroad County class there. Okay, but you should be able to download the instruction sheet off the internet if you don't have that. Okay, so I hope that helps with putting your tender and your loco and your tender together. Like I say, if somebody's ever removed the body, that drawbar, if it's being removed, if you don't know about getting that spring pressed down, then you could be stuck. And there are two slots there. There are two slots there. One slot, the top slot, is holding the body and the chassis together, okay? And the bottom slot is the one which your drawbar goes through, okay? You can see that there, okay? Here's your drawbar, okay? Lovely. Okay. Bear with just a moment, so I've just got my hand in the way. Okay, so bear with just a moment. And we shall right, so what I've done is I've changed the camera angles differently now. So I've got the camera to my left, and it's a little bit more difficult for me to see now on the actual screen as to whether or not I'm actually facing in the right direction. Well, let's have a quick look and see if we can move the angle around just a little bit. That's a little bit better. Now I can see a little bit better what I'm doing. That's fine. Right, so tools you'll need. Now, what we're talking about here now is how to fit the drawbar on this particular locomotive, okay? So, probably the easiest way to explain it is to take the locomotive to bits, okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the instructions, and it's all to do with body removal, okay? So, what we're going to do is we'll be, first of all, the item we need to remove is, let's see in focus here, there's a screw holds on the front bogie. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo that now, okay? Watch me undoing that screw. I'm hoping all this stays in focus. Now, something I've got here is a magnetic screwdriver. So you can see that the screw is held down, that's going to go straight into there. That's the, so we know, and I can play the video back actually if I want to see where things go. And it tells me to remove the front bogie, so we'll do that now. The front bogie goes in there now, okay. Now the next thing we'll be doing is we'll be removing the front body screw. So that comes out now. Okay, sorry about this, I'm going to got a better idea. Okay, so that comes out together with the spring there. I don't know if I can see that in focus, but it comes out together with the spring. Now for the back fitting here, probably see the there's a screw underneath, a large flathead screw, which we need to remove. So we're doing that now. I've got one of my spare flathead screwdrivers, so it's easier for me to, rather than swap these out. Now this screw here is a shouldered screw, and it's not magnetic, okay? So you need to be careful with that one. I don't know what material this screw is made from, but it's not magnetic, okay? But in the tray it goes. Then you need to pull the drawbar out. So you've got the drawbar there now. You see that? You need to pull that out. So again, that's the drawbar completely removed. And then you can remove the loco body. Just pulls out as easy as that. No, not very difficult to get the body out. Now here's your main problem with trying to reconnect this drawbar, okay? And we'll just see if we can get into focus now on this. See there's a screw there? Oh, sorry, a spring. Spring, I'll get a bit late now. A spring there, okay. I don't know how in focus that is. Let me just put my finger around there so I can get that back in. Okay, but that spring has to be compressed before you can put the before you can get the drawbar. If you imagine when you've got the body actually on, you've got to somehow get the drawbar here through the slot at the back of the locomotive. Okay, you can see it all there. And you've got to compress that spring. Now how you do this is tricky, okay? So let's see what we've got now. See if we can get this in focus again. There we go. So you can see that's the spring you need to compress there before we can slot the drawbar into place. It's got to go through that slot there and the drawbar has to go in. You've got to somehow compress that spring before we can put the screw in. And that probably is the trickiest bit of the lot, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to put this, assemble this back together again. So it's relatively straightforward now. Okay, so let's we can zoom in just ever so slightly. Okay, so the body just slots in. That spring has to be in place. Now the first thing you'll do is you'll put this front bogie spring back in together. The front body screw complete with this spring. Okay, so there's a screw in the spring there. That goes into here. And we're doing this with a crosshead screwdriver. Don't do it up too tight. I mean, just enough to hold it. You can feel how tight you need to go. Now this is your tricky part, okay? That drawbar needs to fit into the slot here. Always make sure that the metal side is facing down, okay? So in fact it'd be facing towards you when you're putting this together. Okay, now when you try to get that drawbar in, it won't go in because the spring's stopping it. Okay, we'll try and move that a little bit further away. You can't get that in because the spring's stopping it from going in. Now you might get lucky and push that in. More often than not though, you've got to try to get a screwdriver through the slot, go through one side, and you need to try to compress the spring from the side. I'm trying to do this in such a way I can film it at the same time. But basically push the screwdriver in. Harder than it looks. See, this is real fiddle, so I can understand how somebody may have decided not to put it together again. There. Okay, so what I've done is I've managed to compress that spring from the side and put that in, and you can see that I've got the shiny side. I put the screw in before I do anything else. That screw can now slide in. But you cannot get that drawbar in unless you compress that spring first. That's in there. Now sorry about that, battery ran out there, but now you can see I've got the this all together now. That screw's now done up, okay. And the drawbar, you can see I've got the metal part is at the bottom, okay. So now we've actually reassembled everything there now. Sorry if anything is going out of focus. It's a slightly steep learning curve for me when I'm trying to put the locomotives together. Oh, and I just forgot actually. Need to get the front bogie put back in again, so I'll just show you how we do this. There we are, we got that there. That fits into us, that just fits into a slot just there. So it fits in just under the running plates. And then the screw is the endmost, it goes in the hole on the endmost hole of the running plate. Okay, so we'll just do that one up now. And you can tell that's going in. Again, don't do it too tight. I mean, you don't have to do it too tight really. Okay, it's got the bogie in place now as well. Move that back a bit. Okay, so what I did is I did this screw up here. Okay, and that's your front bogie in place now. So now we've got the body back onto the chassis. And just to recap, okay, just to recap, we'll get this put together here. So you can see our drawbar there, hopefully. Okay, and then we just, that goes into the slot that's in between the buffers. Okay, I don't know if you can see it there, there's a slot there in between the buffers. And that drawbar just goes in the slot in the buffers, and you push the two together like so. And they clip together. Okay, to clip together like that, and then to undo them, pull them apart like that. Okay, so hopefully now that's shown you how to fit the drawbar onto the locomotive and everything else. I hope it's been useful. Sorry if anything's been out of focus or difficult to see, but it's getting quite late now actually. Let's have a look, it's 20 to 12. I never start these videos so very late. And if you like what you see, please press the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell. And I'll be doing, perhaps I'll do a running session with my county classes again, just so you can see them again. And you'll see these in action, okay? Now, one thing that I will say about these locomotives is, if you've got a curved point, okay, you'll have trouble with these buffers, okay? See the two metal buffers there? They stick out too far. And what they do is, as you're, see I'm going to illustrate this, as you're trying to go around a bend, they'll clash with the locomotive on those two sides. And they won't go around the curved point correctly. What I did with those, I just removed the buffers, and I made bigger holes and sunk them straight back in. So now, in a way, don't look not as realistic as it did, but they're flush now with the actual tender, and they go around the curved point now as sweet as a nut. So that's another problem you can encounter with it. Okay, so we'll leave it now for tonight. I thank you very, very much for watching, and I should bid you farewell and good night.